Architectural Outcast.
Welcome to the Architectural Outcast, that little old channel from Texas. Disney's The Acolyte trailer has dropped, and there's a line in there that's gaining a lot of attention.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
It's not about good and evil. It's about power and who's allowed to wield it. On a side note, if you claim that what you're doing is outside of the concepts of good and evil, you're evil. You're just trying to obfuscate and confuse. There have been very strong reactions to this statement. Wow, what a mask-off moment. Way to tell the world what you really think. I agree that this is a mask-off moment, but for slightly different reasons. This statement is making false assumptions about the way power works. There are two different types of power: hard power and soft power. Hard power is having the means and willingness to use violence to impose your will. I obey because I don't want to face the consequences. Soft power is when people voluntarily obey. I choose to listen. I choose to follow. I choose to obey. Both hard power and soft power gains their legitimacy through moral authority. If soft power loses its moral authority, they become irrelevant. People stop listening, they go away. Hard power, if they lose their moral authority, that's when they become dictators, tyrants, or just plain old bullies. This is going to seem counterintuitive, but between the two types of power, soft power is by far the more powerful and the more dangerous. You don't want to get on its bad side, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to win. Y'all doubt me? Let me give you an example. Some salacious dirty laundry from small town America back in the late 80s and early 90s. Have to be a little bit vague here. Most of the ne'er-do-wells are dead, but some of the innocents are still around. One sleepy Saturday morning, my hometown was rocked. One of the city's police officers was found beaten unconscious beside his patrol car. There was fear and panic, but there was also curiosity and excitement. We had our own little whodunit. It was the talk of the town. The police were swarming. Borderline martial law, checkpoints and curfews. But the police were acting weird. They were targeting teenagers. They knew something, but they weren't talking. And then the police did something stupid. They went into the high school, and with full cooperation from school officials, they started interrogating students without their parents' consent or even knowledge. You don't even need to ask about if lawyers were involved. You can imagine what hit the fan. Livid parents started showing up, lawyers in tow. Questions were very aggressively asked. What's going on? Why are you targeting the teens? What do you know? And then, like magic, the investigation just disappeared. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. All this happened fast. Saturday, the officers found. By the following Friday, no more investigation. That weekend, I'm sitting at home minding my own business when my great uncle comes to visit. Let's call him Uncle James. Uncle James has something on his mind. But if you know Ozark culture, you don't get to the point right away. You shoot the breeze first. After about a half hour or so, Uncle James comes around to what's on his mind. He tells me the police officer was found outside of city limits, outside of his jurisdiction, at Lover's Lane, with no pants or underwear. He tells me the police are looking for somebody, a teenager, but the officer hasn't talked yet. He wants to find that teenager first, and he asked me, do I know anything? I told Uncle James I didn't know anything, but I knew some people who might know something. I'd make some phone calls and get back to him. Uncle James said, no, we're on the clock. Let's take a ride. The very first person I took Uncle James to talk to didn't know nothing about nothing. But maybe we should go talk to so-and-so. Turns out, so-and-so beat the stuffing out of that police officer when he found him in the back seat of his patrol car with that guy's 14-year-old daughter. Sleepover, girls sneaking out, mama saw them run across the yard. Within minutes, they were all rounded up but one. When Papa realized his daughter wasn't in town, he beelined out to Lover's Lane. In a very heated confrontation, the police officer decided it was a real good idea to take a swing at Papa with his nightstick. Papa took the stick away from him and proceeded to walk the dog on him. After so-and-so told his story, he asked, "Are you interested in what's really going on?" My response was, "No." Uncle James said, "Yes." The guy went in the other room, made a phone call, came back out and said, "Let's go for a ride." This is the closest I've ever come to a clandestine meeting. Wait a minute. Meeting people in the middle of the night on a random dirt road? It was a clandestine meeting. Standing in the headlights of those trucks, Uncle James and I learned we had a monster in our midst. There were quite a few names. What's more, the police chief, he knew exactly what his officer was up to. Because if you went in to file a report, you got run off. If you didn't take the hint to keep your mouth shut, he'd come after you. Destroy you, your family, your business, maybe even worse. The fact that a bunch of pissed off fathers are already comfortable with meeting on a random dirt road in the middle of the night should give you all chills. I know it did me, because I'm standing off to one side going crap, 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 as I'm trying not to do the same in my pants. I'm 18, 19, just out of high school, and I'm realizing I'm getting involved in things that are way over my pay grade. Uncle James told all those fathers, "Stand down. I'm looking into this. Trust me, I'll handle it." When he dropped me off at my house, Uncle James told me, "Stay close and stay in contact. Things are about to get ugly." You think? You all are probably wondering, who's Uncle James? Why does he care? And why were a bunch of pissed off fathers who are already meeting in the middle of the night on dirt roads willing to listen to him? Uncle James was just a local farmer. But 9 a.m. Monday through Saturday, you would find him sitting at the local bakery in his favorite chair. The favorite chair he'd been sitting in since 1948. The same chair his father, my great-grandfather, had sat in. For about an hour, Uncle James and the same group of friends would drink coffee, eat donuts, and talk about the topics of the day. People would come in to hear what they had to say, ask their opinions, and seek their advice. They weren't the only group like this in town, but they were one of the more influential ones. Uncle James pointedly stayed out of politics, but he was highly respected. His word carried a lot of influence. Several days after the meeting, we waited for the other shoe to drop. And then the police chief, in his arrogance, made his fatal mistake. When the officer got out of the hospital, the chief put him back on duty and sent him out on patrol. Within hours, there was a meeting in the police chief's office where people were asking, "What are you doing? What are you thinking? You can't do this." They were shown the door where the chief told them, "This is my department. I'll run it how I see fit. I will not be told what to do. Good day." What happened next, I've never figured out if it was spontaneous or orchestrated. But the entire town started treating the entire police department as if they were invisible. On duty, off duty, official business, or buying groceries, didn't matter. They were treated as if they didn't exist. It was full-on ostracization. Most officers got the message. They just quit reporting for duty. So it wasn't long before the chief was back in the bakery. He told Uncle James, "Knock it off." Uncle James's reply? The chief sat down and told Uncle James, "My men will be obeyed. we are well within our rights to start shooting people who refuse to obey lawful orders. Uncle James put down his coffee cup, leaned forward, and said, let's see how that works out. By the end of the day, that officer had resigned and left town. This incident started a cascade that eventually led to an avalanche. An avalanche that, unfortunately, I was involved in up to my eyeballs. That's another story for another day. But I can tell y'all, I'm the only person I know of who's ever been kicked out of a police station and told to never come back. For 20 years, give or take, we'd had the same mayor, the same chief of police, mostly the same school board, mostly the same city council. Within 6 months of the incident, the chief had resigned and then was found dead in his front yard, massive heart attack. The mayor unexpectedly resigned, with his U-Haul running in the parking lot. He disappeared to parts unknown. At the next election, clean sweep. And when we got our new school board, first thing they did, you know those officials that helped with the police interrogations? Gone. There's another word that has a strong correlation with power and moral authority. Respect. Respect is how an elderly gentleman with health issues, unfortunately Uncle James passed away not long after this incident, but it's respect that allowed an elderly gentleman to bend a police department to his will. The town had a stark choice to make. Follow the lead of Uncle James, who'd earned their respect over generations, or obey the commands of an out-of-control police chief. The town chose to follow Uncle James, regardless of the risks. Persuasion is always more powerful than threats and intimidation.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
It's not about good and evil. It's about power and who's allowed to wield it. Disney doesn't believe that statement. The media doesn't believe that statement. All these people getting involved in this new Gamergate kerfluffle, they don't believe in this statement either. All y'all need to do is look at patterns of behavior, patterns of statements being made. Just a few years ago, when Disney got involved with the state of Florida, what did Bob Iger come out and say? It's not about politics. It's about right and wrong. What's the raison d'etre for DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity? There is historic racism. Various oppressed groups have been denied access to power. This is unjust. It's only right and fair that these same oppressed groups are moved to the front of the queue and given access to power. I don't know about y'all, but this sounds like a straight-up moral argument to me. Sweet Baby Inc., Black Girl Gamers, other groups, what's their argument? If you're giving power to oppressed groups, why not give it to us? We're members of those oppressed groups. We've personally been victims of oppression. Give us the power. We'll make things right. Again, sounds like a moral argument to me. As Disney, Sweet Baby Inc., Black Girl Gamers, Kotaku, others have come under increasing scrutiny, they've discovered they have the same problem that police chief did. On the surface, everything looks fine, impressive even. But if you look deeper at what's actually going on, you find corruption, abuse of power, betrayal of trust, all leading to loss of moral authority. All they have left, just like the chief, we go back to patterns of behavior. How do Disney and all these other groups always attack their critics? They're ists and phobes. They're liars, cheats, con artists. They don't mean it. They're just saying things to get attention, to be famous, for clicks, for likes. They're rage baiters. They always attack the moral authority of people who criticize them. What happens if the critic is honest and has integrity, is telling the truth? The ends justify the means, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to eliminate your opponent? Lie. Twist and distort. Manipulate. Don't get caught, though. because that just further damages your moral authority. It's way too late for Disney and these groups. They've been caught more times than I can count lying about their critics. Just like my hometown all those years ago, we're faced with a very stark choice between those who have the full force of institutions behind them and people who have one of these. People who are trying to impose their will on others, and those who are trying to persuade. As I said earlier, 9 times out of 10, soft power is going to win. Disney and these other groups, they know this as well. It's not about good and evil. It's about power and who's allowed to wield it. Disney is trying to change the argument. They're trying to convince everybody that soft power doesn't exist, and if it does, it's irrelevant. Now that we have power, moral authority doesn't matter. We have the power, so sit down and shut up. There is a reason why the media, Disney, these other groups, are willing to go to such lengths, willing to lie, deceive, distort, manipulate, all in an effort to discredit their critics. They don't want us to realize that we always choose to obey or not. At any rate, I hope I've given you all something to think about. And until next time, y'all be safe. If y'all are still here, I really appreciate it. Why don't you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel? Click that notification bell, and next time you can hear me yammer on about something else.
Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment.